What's up, Sepul Nation? Welcome to another SepulQuarta. My name is Bruno. I'm part of the Sepultura team, and today we're gonna have a really special live Q&A with Eloy Casagrande and Mr. Mike Portnoy. So please be polite, send your questions here in the comment box, and I'm gonna give a quick message for our Brazilian audience. Boa tarde, Sepul Nation. Eu sou o Bruno, parte da equipe do Sepultura. Sejam todos bem-vindos a mais uma SepulQuarta. Hoje vai ser muito especial, mais uma com um convidado, que é o Mike Portnoy, e o Eloy vai conversar aqui com ele. Então, as perguntas vão ser respondidas em inglês, então peço que vocês mandem suas mensagens aqui na caixa de comentários, e já temos aqui o Eloy e o Mike.
What's up?
Hello, everybody. Are you listening to me, Mike?
I sure am, man.
For you.
Sounds fucking perfect.
Yeah, for me as well.
Good.
Man, thank you very much for joining with us. It's like a huge pleasure. You don't know like how happy I am for doing it and how nervous as well. I am for doing it right now. Yeah, thank you, man. It's such a pleasure.
Pleasure's mine, man. I love you. I love the band. I love you. You're one of my favorite drummers out there today, so it's my pleasure, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I think it's going to be great to the fans, especially for the Sepultura fans and for all the music fans to know that we have a strong drummers community. You know, we are all together. We are all together in this, like, and we just want to play, make music, spread our love. So thank you for doing it.
Yeah. I know you guys are going through crazy times in Brazil, and we're going through crazy times here in America. So something like this, if it takes people's minds off of the shit out there for 1 hour, then that's a good thing.
Yeah, so let's talk we love about music, and I'd like to make you some questions.
Sure, man. Of course.
Man, I believe that you have always gone against the standard, you know, always going like breaking some rules in a good way, like getting out of the box, you know, breaking some concepts. And I first had my first time that I had a contact with your music, with your drumming, was through this album here.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, and yes, and it was amazing. And I also had the opportunity to went to some Dream Theater shows here in Brazil, like many years ago. And always when I see you playing, you are always having fun, a lot of fun. You know, you are playing for the music, you are jamming, you are like interacting with the fans and with your band members. And in despite that, you are always playing difficult music, you know, weird time signatures, whatever, you know, fast stuff. And also, like for instance, you studied at Berkeley, right? And you formed the Dream Theater inside the college. And also by the fact that you are a self-taught musician, do you consider yourself like a subversive, a guy that is always thinking out of the box?
Well, thank you. Thanks for all that. I mean, for starters, yeah, I always wanted to think out of the box. Even when we started Dream Theater back in like 1985 in college, like you said, there was no progressive music that was popular at that point. You know, like all the bands that we grew up that was doing like progressive stuff, like Rush, Yes, Genesis, they were by the mid 80s doing like kind of poppy, straight ahead stuff. And then at the same time, I was listening to all these metal bands and thrash bands that were coming out. You know, around 85, I was listening to Exodus and Overkill and Slayer and Megadeth and all that stuff. So even the whole concept of what we did with Dream Theater was breaking out of a box. That was a very unpopular combination of styles at that point. Nobody was really doing progressive heavy music. So yeah, you know, all those years, 25 years in Dream Theater, we're always trying to just push ourselves to as far as we can. And then when I left Dream Theater, it was the same thing. I wanted to do things that pushed outside of what people expected from me from Dream Theater. After 25 years, they expected all these technical odd time signatures. So once I started doing other things, I wanted to do what was unexpected. So I tried different things like Flying Colors or, the Winery Dogs, Sons of Apollo, Metal Allegiance. They were all like different things to try for me. So yeah, it's always important to get out of the comfort zone, you know, and try new things. And then, like you said, as far as my stage performance and the interaction and that kind of thing, I mean, that's always so important to me. Like, one of my favorite drummers of all time is Keith Moon, and that's what appealed to me about him, because he was just like, you couldn't take your eyes off of him on stage. He's just, you know, throwing sticks and bouncing up all over, and he was just like so animated and fun to watch. And I could say the same thing about Lars Ulrich. Everybody tears up Lars Ulrich and insults him, but I have so much respect for the guy. He's first of all such a creative force, and he was the driving creative force in Metallica. But in going on with what you're talking about, his stage performance, he's always energetic. He's always trying to get the audience going and motivated. And I love drummers like that. That's one of the reasons I love your playing as well. I mean, obviously, you've got so much technical abilities and speed and dexterity, but there's a lot of drummers I see with all that stuff on Instagram or YouTube, and it's impressive, but it's also like a little boring to watch. But with you, you have so much energy. I watch you play and I feel the energy, you know, and to me, that's such an important aspect. It's just as important as technical abilities. I think personality is a really, really important aspect for drumming as well.
Amazing, man. I felt the same thing when I watched you playing, you know, always like so much energy, and every show, each show was a different experience.
Well, thank you.
I watched you playing like in different situations with different bands, and that was always amazing, like a new experience, you know.
Yeah.
So thank you for being the moment, being present. That was amazing.
Well, thank you, man.
and
obrigado.
Obrigado. Muchas gracias. Do you believe like the kids and teenagers nowadays that they are starting to play an instrument, they somehow like they have a lack of attitude on their playing or on their mindset?
I mean, it depends on what they're going for. Like I said, some of these like YouTube drummers, Instagram drummers are unbelievable, and they blow my mind. But you know, there's different kinds of players for different styles. It depends what you're into. Like, for instance, my son Max, he's got this band Tala, and it's like full on energy, hardcore. It's kind of like, you know, Dillinger Escape Plan kind of Code Orange kind of, you know, energy. And I really like seeing young kids that have that energy. And Max, you know, he started playing prog music with his first band, but I think he felt a little confined by it. So he wanted to express himself in a different genre. So he does this more like hardcore, new metal kind of application. You know, they're playing like Slipknot and Korn kind of music, but with the energy and, you know, insanity of like, you know, Code Orange or Dillinger. So yeah, I mean, but there's younger drummers out there doing all different kinds of things. Yeah, I mean, it's up to what you're into and what you want to do and how you want to express yourself. You know, I could only talk about my, you know, the way I want to play and I want to express myself, but obviously I have to respect all different kinds. I'm also a big fan of power pop music, you know, bands like, you know, the Beatles, obviously, and Weezer and Radiohead and all these different styles. And none of those bands are about energy and excitement. Those are a whole different kind of vibe. And I have a lot of love and admiration for that as well. So it's really, you know, different strokes for different folks.
Yeah, amazing, man. Yeah, I think the same. Like, I think you need to be honest with your music, and that's it. You know, that's your like biggest attitude in your style of playing.
Definitely.
Let me read the question. TLZ Hickman, two incredible drummers together. How does being a drummer affect your contributions to songwriting within a band? Can you start, Master?
Well, for me, the songwriting is sometimes even more important than the drumming. I mean, for all the bands I'm a part of, starting with Dream Theater for 25 years, but then Liquid Tension, Transatlantic, Winery Dogs, you know, Flying Colors, Metal Allegiance, every one of these bands that I'm a part of, I'm also a part of the writing process. You know, every once in a while, there'll be a situation where I'm just hired as a guest drummer, you know, Avenged Sevenfold or Twisted Sister or things like that. But for the most part, any bands that I created or I'm part of the writing. And to me, that's so important. And I don't mean just writing from the drums. Sometimes when I'm writing with a lot of these bands, I'm not even behind the drums. I'll be sitting in a circle with them, maybe holding a bass or a guitar, or maybe just, you know, looking at the arrangement, looking at the riffs and the keys and the, you know, the different things like that. And that stuff is more important to me before I even sit behind the drums. You know, a lot of times maybe a drum part will spark something, but for the most part, my contributions are, you know, the arrangements and the riffs and the melodies and things like that. So, you know, and then I'll get behind the drums, and then I won't even have to think about my parts. I'm already so consumed in the, you know, the concept of the song that I just instinctively know what my limbs are going to do behind the drums. And I don't even think about it. It kind of just happens. I think if I started to think about the drum parts too much, it would fuck me up. So I like to just think more about the writing and then just kind of apply myself behind the drums once a song is underway.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's because you can play different instruments, right? Yeah.
Maybe it surely helps. I mean, you mentioned Berkeley before. I don't think you don't have to go to a music school, have to have that training to be a good musician or to express yourself. You know, there's probably many musicians I love that couldn't even tell you what the notes on the guitar are. But so it doesn't really matter to express yourself. But I like having the background knowledge so I can communicate with other musicians that do know those sort of things. So, you know, the time I spend at Berkeley and the time I spend fiddling around on other instruments definitely helps with that communication with my band members.
Amazing, man. Amazing. Yeah, man. I think I always in Sepultura we have a discussion over the topic of the song, and we discuss a lot. We discuss what we think about the team, about the topic, and after and Derek, he's the guy that write most of the lyrics, and that's it. But mostly of the songs they are born or from the drums or from the guitar. You know, so
yeah, I could tell that from you. I could tell definitely a lot of patterns and grooves are definitely coming from the drums. I could tell that from the intensity of the way you play and the dexterity of the patterns and stuff like that. I mean, I love the connection with the guitar player. To me, honestly, that's, you know, all those years in Dream Theater, it was the connection of me and John Petrucci that really drove that music. And some of my favorite bands have that kind of chemistry between guitar and drums, you know, like, Lars Ulrich and James Hetfield and Metallica, or Dimebag and Vinnie Paul with Pantera, Eddie and Alex Van Halen, you know. So to me, that connection between guitar and drums is so important. And I could totally see it with you and Andreas. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, amazing, man. Yeah, we have that connection.
For sure.
Always when I'm studying the drums and practicing, I like to record what I'm playing, you know, and I cut some little parts, and I somehow that I can pick those little parts, little cells, you know, and turn that into a music and create like the chorus, the verse of the song, and I send that to Andreas, and he composed the riff on top of my drums, or it can happen also on the opposite side. You know, so yeah, we have a good connection.
Yeah, amazing. I can totally tell for sure.
Yeah. Good, man. Let me ask you.
And I love playing with Andreas as well. He's one of my favorite people on earth, and I'm privileged to play with him in Metal Allegiance, and I always have so much fun with him. He's one of my favorite people. He's just such a dear spirit, man. I fucking love that guy.
Cool, man. Yeah, me too. Definitely. Man, let me ask you, now that we are talking about composition things, I know that you are a cinephile, right? You have like
big time.
And what's the importance of the movies in your music? Do you can also represent the movies in what you play on the drums, or in the lyrics?
There's different ways of utilizing like my love for film into music. Many different ways. I mean, for starters, when I used to write lyrics with Dream Theater, a lot of the times I would write lyrics inspired by moments in film, or sometimes I would use film clips in the songs. Pretty much most of the songs that have film clips in the Dream Theater catalog are my lyrics and my samples that I brought in, like A Change of Seasons. I had samples from like Dead Poet Society and a bunch of different films. When I did Honor Thy Father, I had samples from like Magnolia and all these other films. So a lot of times my love for film, I would be able to utilize it in the music with samples and lyrics and things like that. But then also just the whole creative process. Anytime I watch a film, I'm watching it from so many different perspectives. You know, one time I'll watch it maybe just from the director's perspective, and you know, or they sometimes from the cinematographer, the way he's framing the shots, or sometimes from the editor, the way he's like editing the pace of the films. Then obviously there's the performances from the actors, there's the writing from the writers. And if you look at making a record or making music, it's the same thing. You know, like a film director is the same as an album producer, kind of overseeing everything. Then the musicians, when they're playing, are kind of like the actor acting in a movie. The songwriters are kind of like the writers for a screenplay. The engineers recording the album are kind of like the cinematographers filming the movie, and the mixers that are mixing the album are kind of like the editors. So there's a similar creative process between the two worlds. And when I watch like a Stanley Kubrick film or David Lynch film or a Paul Thomas Anderson film, I'm watching from their entire creative process. And that's the same when I listen to music. If I listen to an album of a band like, Pink Floyd or Rush or whatever, I'm listening to all the aspects. One time I'll listen to the bass playing, one time I'll listen to the drumming, one time I'll listen to the way it's mixed or produced. So there's a very, very similar process between film and music, and it's easy to kind of appreciate both aspects. You got to go answer your phone now.
Oh, it was here at my house?
I think it was you. It wasn't me.
Yeah, it was in my I think it's all good, man. We can keep talking, no problem. Man, that's awesome. That was a class of how to really absorb a movie, to really understand a movie or an
There's
album.
so many levels. It's the same with music.
For saying that.
Yeah, man.
Thank you for saying that. That's amazing, man. And let me ask you your relation with Sepultura. When did you first hear about Sepultura? When do you had your first contact with the band?
I think I heard of the band in the late 80s because I was listening to so much thrash metal, like I mentioned earlier, Exodus and Overkill and all that shit. And then I started to branch out and hear thrash metal coming from different countries. And of course, I heard of Sepultura coming from Brazil. I didn't know any other Brazilian bands at that time. And but I don't think I really got hooked until 1993 when Chaos AD came out. And I remember Chaos AD was pretty much my favorite album that year in 93. I remember like 92, Pantera's Vulgar Display of Power was like my favorite metal album. And 94, my favorite metal album was Machine Head's debut album. But if I remember correctly, 93, Chaos AD was like my favorite metal album of that year. And I was just so absorbed in that album. And I remember loving Refuse Resist and loving Territories and everything about that album. And then I stayed with the band from that point on. And then obviously Roots came next and all through the years, up till, all the stuff with you. So yeah, it started in 93. So God, it's almost 30 years now that I've been listening to the band. And then obviously awesome. I've worked a lot with Andreas, with Metal Allegiance. He's done so many shows with us, and he's done different things with us. And then even you came out and jammed a song with us last year. And we also worked with Max as well. So I know that the families are split in half over there, but he's also recorded with Metal Allegiance. So yeah, there's been a lot of interaction with your family through the years, which has been really cool.
Nice, man. And did you like our new album?
Oh my God. Look who's the next question. Is Derek. Yes, your new album is one of my favorites of this year. I absolutely love it. I can't get enough. The drumming is just so inspirational. You really inspire me, man. You really, really light a fire under my ass, and I watch you play, and it's like
stop with that, man.
But for real, man, you got to own that shit. It's true. You bring a fire and an energy to the music that's really inspiring, man.
Oh, thank you, man. Let me show you something from what I have from you here. I have a bunch of stuff from you. Also, your DVDs.
Oh God.
Remember those?
Yeah. That's back in the 90s when I had short hair. There we go. That one. That's a good one.
Yeah. So I was very influenced by you. So thank you for your music, man. Such a pleasure.
So I saw Derek. Derek was waiting to ask a question.
He sent. Hey, B, how's it, Mike? What's up? Is there a person that has helped influenced your music who is not a musician? You first, Master.
Well, absolutely. It was like I was just saying, filmmakers, you know, Stanley Kubrick, David Lynch, Paul Thomas Anderson, Martin Scorsese, the Coen brothers, all those filmmakers blow my mind. I mean, they are my heroes just as much as any musicians, you know. And then there's also even musicians that aren't drummers, you know, like guitar players or people like Frank Zappa, John Lennon, Freddie Mercury. You know, none of those guys are drummers, but I respect and admire, and they inspire me so much. So yeah, there's so many different places you can get influences that don't necessarily pertain to your instrument or even, you know, music at all. I know there's a lot of people that read. I'm not a big reader. I'm more of a movie and TV guy, but I know so many people that like books, and authors are a huge, huge inspiration. So how about you? Where do you get inspiration from other than music?
Oh, I think that first is my family, you know,
that's a good
life, like to be alive, the biggest influence. I really like to interact with people, to ask them different stuff, to travel, you know, to have that experience with people from abroad of my country, and maybe from the books as well. I love to read, man. I can tell you that I love philosophy. I love philosophy, like Albert Camus, Nietzsche, Simone de Beauvoir. I really like a Brazilian writer. Her name is Clarice Lispector. She's an outstanding writer. She's incredible. And so these are my main sources outside of music. Yeah.
I love TV too, man. There's a lot of great TV these days too. Well-made, like shows, you know, that I really get into as well. But yeah, and you mentioned getting out there and exploring and reading. Like, you know, one of my heroes, Neil Peart. I mean, that was his thing, and he would write these books of his like trips. He'd go on his motorcycle rides all through the world and get inspired from that, and then write about it. So yeah, I would read his books. I'm not a big reader, but I would read his books and kind of see the world through his eyes. And that's, you know, another example of him inspiring me, but not only behind the drums. You know, his other aspects were a huge inspiration to me as well.
Cool, man. Awesome. And let me make you another question about like the difference between the mic that played in Dream Theater and the mic that played in Avenged Sevenfold, and if possible to talk the difference about the drumming, the drumming aspect and the mental aspect.
Right. Well, it's a completely different role. With Dream Theater, I was hands-on everything, you know, pretty much 90%. Well, first of all, there was the music. Let's start with the music. We would write that together, mainly myself and John Petrucci having a big hand in that. But of course, everybody, including Jordan, it was collaborative. And then I would write a lot of the lyrics and the vocal lines. So that's the music in Dream Theater. But then everything else in Dream Theater, the merchandise, the website, the fan club, the set list, the videos, I oversaw all that stuff. So pretty much 90% of the things you were seeing with Dream Theater, I was like very, very hands-on with. By the way, I'm not like that anymore in my other bands. I've learned to kind of lay back and play different roles in different bands. But if we're talking specifically about my role in Dream Theater, it was very, very hands-on. So if you now want to compare that to my role in Avenged Sevenfold, I mean, that was your question. It was completely different because Avenged Sevenfold, I was just a hired gun. I was there to just play drums and do nothing else. You know, I came in to do the album, and I was respecting what the Rev had wanted to do, and he passed away before being able to do it. So I went in there with a lot of respect for what the job needed to be done, and I kind of let them shape me and produce the drums however they wanted. They gave me some freedom to do my own things here and there, but for the most part, I was a hired gun to just play drums, and I respected that. And it's the same thing when I went on to play with Twisted Sister, or when I played with Stone Sour at Rock in Rio. You know, there's been a lot of occasions where I've been just a hired gun and just play drums, and I liked it. I think that experience with Avenged kind of showed me that it could be fun to not have to have total control over things. And that experience made me realize, you know, I kind of like just playing drums and not having to write the set list and oversee the mix and oversee the video. So that experience taught me a lot. And since then, I've learned to lay back and collaborate and, you know, work as a team more with all the different things. But then you asked about the drumming aspect, did I think you said?
The drumming aspect as well. Yeah.
Well, it was
let me ask you something. Like when you were playing with Dream Theater, were you thinking about the different time aspect of the tempo changes?
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we would spend a lot of times working on it. There's a lot of bands that play odd time signatures and they don't even realize it, or they don't know how to count it. They just do it by feel. But with Dream Theater, it was very, very deliberate. Especially me and John Petrucci were very, very locked in with odd time signatures and things like that. And then once Jordan joined the band, Jordan also is incredible with that kind of stuff. So the three of us, you know, we all came from that mentality and loving odd time signatures and different phrasings. So yeah, it was a very conscious thing with Dream Theater, and I do it in a lot of other bands too when it's needed and when it's called for. I think what we write with Sons of Apollo has a lot of intricate parts and odd time signatures, and some of the stuff I do with Neil Moore's band or Transatlantic has a lot of those really technical time signatures. So. But you know, you don't have to know how to count that stuff to do it. Sometimes you could just do it by feel. You listen to like Soundgarden and you could tell they're playing in 5 or playing in 7. And for them, it's probably just the way that it feels, the riff feels. So you could do it both ways. Like I was saying before, you can have your school smarts or you could have your street smarts. Both ways work. But for Dream Theater, it was a very conscious counting. You know, we would map everything out and count it out. You know, when we were writing something like Dance of Eternity, we were very, very, very conscious of every intricate bar. And sometimes you spend like an entire rehearsal just looping a 4-bar phrase slowly, and then getting it up to speed and understanding the phrasing and the patterns and stuff like that, and internalizing it.
Okay, amazing, man. Cool. I watched you playing in Brazil with Stone Sour.
Yeah,
man. Yeah, I was there, man.
I think that was a great gig because first of all, playing Rock in Rio was fucking amazing, but playing with Stone Sour was great. But it was like the only show I did, so I had to like learn this whole show. With, you know, my first time ever playing this stuff is in front of like 100,000 people, and then being internet broadcast on the internet, so a lot of pressure with that one.
Yeah, man. And how do you learn new songs? Do you have like a specific process? Or you just like listen to several times and then
I'll map it out. I actually have one of my chart books here by coincidence. Like a lot of times, like if there's let me see. Let me pull out one that has some notes. I mean, okay, this is a writing chart from the last Flying Colors album, but but it's a similar thing. What I'll do if I have to learn a Stone Sour set or a set for Fates Warning or Twisted Sister or, you know, any of these bands, if I'm doing a session for somebody, I just did a session for Neil Morse's solo album, I'll listen to the music, I'll make a map. Usually one side will be kind of like the arrangement. Okay, this is the verse, the reintro, the second verse. So the left column, I'll map out the arrangement. And then the right side, I'll do what the drums are doing. Okay, this is a hi-hat halftime, there's a hi-hat upbeat. So I kind of will map out the arrangement, map out what the drums are supposed to do, and then just listen to the music over and over and over. Like that Stone Sour gig, they gave me the set list. I would map it out. I'd come in to rehearsals with the charts, maybe film the rehearsals so I could go back to my house or hotel and watch the videos and just internalize it. So it's different, but I like these hired gun gigs. I really do. It like, playing these gigs, filling in for these drummers, whether it be one show. I think I played so many shows in Brazil as one-offs. I played a Fates Warning show in Sao Paulo. I did the Stone Sour. I played with Avenged down there. So anytime I get a hired gun gig, I kind of just have to make the notes and then just keep listening to the music over and over and over to internalize it.
Okay, man. Nice. Cool. Bruno, can you send another question? Yeah. Mike, what did you listen to in your childhood?
It started, the big ones for me were the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, The Who. Those were my first three drum heroes. Ringo, John Bonham, Keith Moon. And in the other room, I can't really turn the computer around right now, but I actually did tributes to all those bands. Me and Paul Gilbert did Who, a Zeppelin, and a Beatles, and also a Rush tribute. So I actually have drum kits, a Ringo, a John Bonham, a Keith Moon, and a Neil Peart replica kit. So those were my four big heroes. And then in my childhood, I also listened to a lot of like punk rock, like Sex Pistols and The Clash and the Ramones when that came around in the late 70s. And then also a lot of Kiss. I was a huge Kiss fan in the mid 70s. I saw them in 1977 when I was 10 years old, and it was like life-changing for me. So those were the early ones. And then later on in my teenage years came the metal movement and all the progressive stuff.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Hello, Drums Monsters. What new bands have you been listening to? Wow. I mean, I always have problem to answer that, because I'm always listening to a lot of stuff, so I never know what to say. But,
I have my iTunes in front of me, so I could cheat.
Good for you. I don't.
Here's a few I'm listening to, and you could chime in if you're digging in. These are some of my favorite albums of this year. Like for the heavy stuff, I love the new Sepultura album. But I guess the question is new bands, so let's stick to new bands. Yeah. I love Code Orange. I think they're great.
Awesome, man.
Yeah,
really good stuff.
My son's band Tala, not to give a shout out and a promo to them, but I think they're doing what Code Orange does, and their new album comes out real soon. Actually, their first single comes out maybe in the next couple of days. But yeah, Tala's kick ass. I love Haken. I mean, they're not so new anymore. They've been around for 10 years or so, but they're mixing the prog stuff with the gent heavy stuff and, the 8-string guitar stuff. I love the new Intronaut album. The drumming on that is fucking insane. Totally amazing. Maybe getting away from the metal stuff, there's a band called Once and Future Band, and they're more like pop psychedelic, kind of like if you mixed Steely Dan with Zappa and Badfinger and really cool poppy psychedelic stuff. Love those guys. What else? That's some of the newer bands. Licorice Quartet is a new band made up of the guys from Jellyfish, so I've been loving that. And last night I posted about it last night, but I spent a few hours listening to the Dizzy Miss Lizzy album, which is more power pop vocals but mixed with heavy metal riffs and prog parts. So that's some of the new shit I'm listening to. So did it spark any ones that you could remember?
No, man, I don't remember any of the bands that I'm listening right now. Yeah, if I don't,
I hate that.
I'm using my phone to do the live here, so I cannot access the iTunes, and my computer is far away. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
my memory is really bad, man. I'm sorry, but there are a lot of new metal bands that I really enjoyed. I remember one, Pliny. He plays the guitar.
Yeah,
Pliny,
totally.
He's amazing, man. I have been listening to his albums, and they are all good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, every time I make lists of everything. So I always think like, okay, what am I listening to now? What are some of my favorite albums of the year? Some of my favorite films of the year? Because I always get asked it, and then I can't remember. So I start to make lists so I will remember and make sure I give the props to the people that deserve it.
Yeah, that's good, man. Yeah. Bruno, do you want to talk about the Sepul store?
Yeah, just a little break for you guys. Then I'm going to talk a little bit to our Sepul family, our Sepul nation. About the SepulQuarta page, here's the page where you can find all the info about SepulQuarta. We had Billy Gould last week talking to Paulo. Today we have here Mike Portnoy. So we have a lot of special guests that are gonna come here to talk to you guys. So please visit sepultura.com.br/SepulQuarta. Then I'm gonna show you some content that we have there. We have access to all our official merchandising stores in Europe, USA, Brazil, and Australia. And here we have like the schedule for today, the intro. Right now we're having the live Q&A. After we have, for the first time ever, Sepultura playing Fear, Pain, Chaos, Suffering, featuring Emily Barreto. You should not miss that. And last video for today, Derek Green talking about the 2021st album. And we have Stanley Soares, who was the producer of the album, talking about it. And then I'm going to show you our official merchandise store in Europe first. Right now it's the time then you have to support your bands, your favorite bands, buy from your local store and everything. And here we have Sepultura official web store. In Europe, we have some new models of t-shirt, the Isolation t-shirt. We also have the vinyls, green vinyl, and also on CD we have also some old stuff like the Machine Messiah vinyl, in picture. So at SepulQuarta page, sepultura.com.br/SepulQuarta, you're gonna be able to have access to all this, all of this that I'm showing you. And right now I'm gonna show the Brazilian web store. Para os fãs brasileiros, temos aqui a loja oficial do Sepultura. O link tá na Sepul Store. E em breve tem camiseta nova. Já temos a camiseta Stay Safe in Your Quadra. And also, I'm going to show you our merchandising store for the United States and North America. We have the merchandise from our postponed tour, so you can find there as well. A lot of stuff, a lot of cool stuff that you can get over there. So be safe and also support your favorite bands. And as I told you before, after the Q&A, we have a great performance of Sepultura playing live, and then the storyteller with Mr. Derek Green. And we're gonna come back here with Eloy and Mr. Mike Portnoy.
I want some of that stuff. Damn, that shit looks great. I'm gonna go shopping when we finish. I'm gonna go into the site and go shopping myself.
No, man, we're gonna send you some stuff. Okay. Don't worry about it.
Thank you.
You don't have to buy it.
Well, thank you, man.
Let me ask you something that I always have been thinking about. I believe that you are one of the most copied drummers of the whole history. Wow. And the musicians, they have copied the way you play, your drum kit, and even your physical aspects, like your beard, your tattoos, your hair. And when you see a copy of you, like someone copying you, how do you feel? How is that feeling?
Well, when I see somebody copying my style, then that to me is flattering. I feel a lot of gratitude for that my drumming has meant something to somebody else. So when I hear drummers that sound like me, to me it's a compliment, and I'm very flattered. When I see people that look like me with maybe the blue beard and the tattoos and the bandana, that's a little creepy. That's a little creepy. But it also it weirds me out. Like, oh my God, I've become like a caricature of myself. I almost I've become like a character. So sometimes it's a little weird for me. But I
Okay, nice.
appreciate influence is important. I think, if I could talk about that, like for a minute, I think drummers having an impact on other drummers is so important. It's not always about technique. Like Ringo is one of my favorite drummers ever because he was such an influence on me, but it wasn't his technique. It was just the whole package inspired me. And the same with like Peter Criss of Kiss. People are like, well, why do you like Peter Criss or why do you like Ringo? And then I even hear it with me, like maybe because I went into the Modern Drummer Hall of Fame so young and so early, and people are like, oh, but there's so many drummers that are faster or more technical or whatever. And there are. I watch on YouTube, kids that can outplay me easily. But the point is, it's not necessarily about technique or speed. It's about reaching other people, connecting to other musicians, making an impact on their style or what they listen to. And it doesn't mean you're the best. There's no such thing as best or better than each other. Music isn't a competition. It's just about the inspiration. So when I see young drummers that I've impacted, it's the ultimate compliment because you want to reach other musicians. You want to reach other drummers. And it's not about being the best. It's just about expressing yourself. So when you get that connection, it's really fulfilling.
Okay, man. Yeah, I remember when I started to play the drums that I was like very influenced by some drummers, and I was always trying to copy them. Like for 2 months I was trying to copy John Bonham, and for 2 months I was trying to copy you, and I was always changing my style because I was like very influenced by other drummers. But through the whole process, my path, I changed my way of playing, and I could like somehow find my way of playing. So I think it's a very natural process.
And it's important to mix people together. I think if there's somebody that only listens to me or only listens to John Bonham, you're going to sound like that person. I think it's important to have a melting pot. For me, it was like mixing John Bonham and Keith Moon and Neil Peart and Terry Bozzio and Bill Bruford and Dave Lombardo and Charlie Benante and putting them into a melting pot. And that's how you create your own style. You can't just copy one drummer. You need to listen to all of them, like you were just saying, and make that melting pot create your style.
Cool, man. Yeah. At some point on my life, I tried to forget everything that I was influenced by and really try to become myself, or like
absolutely,
or even don't find myself because I'm always searching for what I'm gonna be next, what I'm gonna play tomorrow or in the next hour. So, but I think that the moment that you're copying some other musicians, that's really important. Also helps you to develop the technique, some like new language on the instrument. So cool, man. Very nice. And let me ask you, do you have a practice routine or use that you have?
Not much anymore, to be honest. Like I spend so much time with all the different bands that are, recording or touring. Well, not touring now, but up until this all happened, I was always out there or in the studio playing. It kind of meant that I don't really get practice time much anymore. Like when I come home, I don't want to get behind the kid. I have two kids and a wife and my dog. I spend so much time away from them until before this pandemic that when I came home, I wanted to spend time with them. So honestly, I haven't really had that kind of practice time like I used to when I was younger. But now with the pandemic, there's more time. I am playing drums more than I have in many, many years. I'm also playing more guitar and bass than I have in a long time, just because I'm sitting around and doing some recording. I've been having fun recording things with me playing every instrument. So this has given me some fun rehearsal time. But in answer to your question, I don't have a routine or a regiment or a warm-up technique or anything like that. I'm sure you could share some great ones, but for me, I don't really have that anymore, at least.
Okay. Man, I when I have some free time, I love to be in contact with the drums, So now during the pandemic, that I'm being able to really like stay at home and practice. I really enjoy to do it. And at the first moment when everything happened, I was kind of lost, you know, like what I'm gonna do now, what I'm gonna do next month, when we don't have a perspective for the future, you know.
Yeah.
So I remember when I started to play the drums, that I didn't have any kind of perspective. I just want to play the drums,
Right.
you know, just to live for the instrument, to
Yeah.
have fun, to do music. So the same thought is helping me right now to keep playing and to keep like creating, you know. So that's
great.
why I keep playing the drums, you know.
That's great.
And do you usually compose on drums? Like, do you sit on the drums and okay, let me create a new drum beat, a new drum fill, or
No,
that never happens?
Not really. I do all of my writing in the room with the people I play with in my different bands and all the people I love. I just love collaborating. To be honest, I find it more fulfilling to be collaborating with, you know, the guys that I'm in all my different bands. That to me is more fulfilling at this stage of my life and career than just playing drums by myself. But you know, I'm 53 years old. I've been doing this now for like 30 something years professionally. So your inspiration and your motivation changes. You know, when I was younger, I would play a lot of solo drums and practice and technique and maybe write different grooves. But at this stage of my career, many years later, it's kind of different. I prefer to, you know, if we have a writing session for the Winery Dogs or for Flying Colors or whatever, Sons of Apollo, I prefer to get in the room with the other guys and jam and develop ideas together. But that's just me.
Okay, that's awesome, man. Cool. Yeah. Bruno send us a question. That's for you, Mike.
Oh, yeah. Well, the score show with Dream Theater, that was 2006. Still to this day, one of my favorite concerts. It was just, we had never played with an orchestra yet. That was the first time. We always wanted to play Radio City Music Hall, one of the favorite New York venues. So yeah, that show was so special. And then I got a chance to play with an orchestra again with Sons of Apollo 2 years ago, and we put that out on the DVD as well, playing in Plovdiv with all these great cover songs that we did with the orchestra. So yeah, those, I know you specifically asked about the Dream Theater score show, but the score show and the Sons of Apollo Plovdiv show are definitely two of my favorite concerts of my career, for sure.
Cool, man. Let me ask you about the Twisted Sister. I watched you playing in Mexico like a few years ago. I don't remember, like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And that was something that I never imagined, like to see you play.
Me neither.
Twisted Sister.
I grew up with them.
Yeah. So how was that, man? You had fun? Like, how was
Well,
that?
it was surreal because, I mean, it was a similar situation to what I had with Avenged Sevenfold, where their drummer had passed away and I came in to help. So the same thing happened with Avenged, and then it happened with Twisted Sister. But it was a little different because with Avenged, those guys are about 15 years younger than me. And with Twisted, they're 15 years older than me, and they were one of my favorite bands growing up. I used to go see them as a teenager in the early 80s. You know, I'd go see them in the clubs here on Long Island, New York. So to be playing with the band for their farewell tour was really an honor for me. There's pictures of me in my high school yearbook. I'm not going to get it now, but in my high school yearbook wearing a Twisted Sister shirt. So, you know, all those years later to be in the band and playing with them for their farewell tour was really an honor. And a lot of people are like, well, it's like, I don't get it. They picture like, we're not going to take it, or I want to rock, you know, and then they picture me with all the Dream Theater, like crazy technical stuff. They can't understand that I could still be a fan of a band like Twisted Sister, but I love all kinds of music. Like I've been saying this whole conversation. So getting in there and playing those songs, even though maybe they're a little more straight ahead and simpler, I still got a lot of enjoyment out of it. And AJ was a phenomenal drummer. He really had a lot of chops. So, you know, it was a great honor for me, and one of the best experiences of my career, those years I played with those guys.
Yeah, man. When I was watching you, I had that feeling, man, that's like history. What is happening right now, you know, to see Mike Portnoy playing with those guys, man. That was so
it was
cool.
Great. Yeah.
I mean, I have a question to make for you. That there's a friend of mine, and he's a maybe the biggest fan of you. His name is Paulinho Drums. He's from Brasilia. Maybe you know him. He has a Dream Theater cover band. He's like a big guy, like huge guy.
Oh, maybe I met,
Yeah.
maybe I met him because I was there. I was in Brasilia. I think I went there with Nocturnal last November, I think.
Yeah.
So maybe I met
it.
him there. Yeah.
Yeah, that was it. And he sent me a question. So here it goes. After leaving Dream Theater, did your work with other bands further awaken your compulsion to compose and create new projects? Like,
Well, I think it was like I said earlier with Dream Theater, I was very fulfilled because I had so many creative areas that I oversaw. I wasn't missing that creative side. I just wanted to explore different sides. You know, with Dream Theater, it was all about a very certain style of music. And you know, after I left the band, I wanted to explore different things. So every one of the things I have done since then have fulfilled like a different musical side to me. Like Flying Colors has that kind of poppy, Radiohead, Muse, U2 kind of influence, and the Winery Dogs has the classic power trio, more classic rock style, you know, so that tapped into that for me. Metal Allegiance, I get to do all the thrash stuff that I was always a fan of, but never was able to do. So I get to work with all, you know, all the guys from all my favorite thrash bands, including yours.
thank you.
And then, you know, different Neil Morse band, Transatlantic, Sons of Apollo, they all were different outlets for me. And also different, like we were saying earlier, I played different roles in some of them. You know, with Dream Theater, I was kind of a leader, but with like Avenged Sevenfold or Twisted Sister, I was just a hired gun. With Sons of Apollo, I get to be more of a leader, but with Winery Dogs and Neil Morse band, Flying Colors, it's more of a team player. So every one of the different bands, I have to play like a different kind of role. Thank you. I was just brought a coffee. Thank you. Yeah, so I feel a different creative fulfillment in every one of these different projects and bands. Not only the styles, but the role I play within the band.
Nice, man. So, and thank you for doing a lot of music for us, you know.
It keeps me busy. I think I have like 7 albums coming out just this year in 2020.
Wow.
Yeah. It's nuts.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable, man. Wow. Congratulations. Bruno, send us a question. That's for you, Mike.
Well, I couldn't be prouder. I think Max has developed into such a great drummer. And, you know, like I already said earlier, he started off doing more progressive stuff with Next to None, but I think he wanted to express himself differently. He was more of a fan of the hardcore new metal stuff. So he formed Tala, where he writes all the music himself. He'll sit at home here in the studio demoing all the material on guitar and bass and drums and writing it himself. So I'm so proud of him. He's a great, great drummer, but beyond that, he's also so creative, you know, writing the music and editing the videos and all those things. And it just makes me so proud. And I would have been just as proud if he wanted to do something else entirely, you know, just to see your son have motivation and creative outlets, no matter what it is going to make me proud. But the fact that he's become a musician and a great drummer in his own right really is great. Great to see.
Man, I watched him playing like a few years ago when he released the first video of himself playing on the internet. I don't remember what he was playing, but he looked like the animal on the drums, you know, like so intense, like so in the moment that felt so good.
Yeah.
And let me ask you, if he talks with you a lot of stuff about drums, if he asks you about the drums and stuff, hey, father, how can I do it? How can I play it? Is something that happened?
These days, I ask him more questions. I have to ask him because he knows all the blast beats and all the crazy shit like that younger people today can do, and I'm too old for that shit. So sometimes I have to go to him for advice. But when he was younger and he was starting out, I mean, he grew up touring with me when I was in Dream Theater. So he grew up in that world, sitting behind my drums at all the shows. So I think he naturally gravitated towards it. But to be honest, all those years where he was really developing and getting really good at the drums, it wasn't me. He was taking lessons. He went to a local guy and went once a week and learned how to read music and learned how to, you know, really break things down. And I think that was important because I'm not a teacher. You know, I can maybe share some ideas or explain things, but it was important for him to go to somebody that knew how to teach and break things down in simpler terms, and also have a consistent person like that, because I'm on the road so much that I wasn't always home. So I think it was really good that he developed with an outside teacher, and then would occasionally ask me for something, and of course I'll be there to help him. But he really developed on his own, you know, which makes me proud as well.
Okay, man, cool. Let me ask you about the internet nowadays. Do you usually read the comments that the people make on your posts on your social medias, or that's something that you don't do? You like avoid that kind of stuff?
I wish I could avoid it. I wish I could ignore it, but I'm too tapped into the social media and the fans. Even before the internet, I always cared about what the fans thought. I was always the one in the 80s and 90s answering the fan mail and always writing the set list and doing the fan club stuff and the fan club CDs and the official bootlegs. So that connection with the fans is very, very important to me. And now with social media, it's so immediate. And it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. You know, it's a good thing because when I can connect with the fans and hear them and maybe answer a question, I like having that connection. But it's also, it can make you fucking crazy. You know, the negative comments, and especially now with what's going on here in America and the politics and the riots and the racism, everybody's very, very on edge right now. And everybody's like picking sides and being very, very, I don't know, very critical of each other. And that's when it starts to get scary. And, you know, I'll read a lot of people writing shit or comments or insulting me or attacking me, and it hurts. I'm human just like anybody. So I do read it, and I try to ignore it. I try not to engage in it if I don't have to. But I would rather read it and be connected and understand where people are coming from than be completely naive and ignorant to it. You know, I like being connected like that, even if it sometimes hurts.
Cool, man. Yeah, that's important to have to build a connection between the people that follow you, you know. But at some point, it can really hurt us. You know, we can. I don't know, man. That's weird. That's weird.
Well, like I told you at the start of this, before we went on the air, like I stopped doing interviews like in January because of all of the bullshit metal websites that just create these clickbait headlines and things like that. So I stopped. I said, you know what? Fuck it. It's too negative. It's too toxic. It's creating too much division and stirs people up. And so I told all my bands and all my record companies, that's it. I'm done. No more interviews. So this right here is one of the few times I've actually come out of in public to do something like this. And watch, now this will probably they'll pull shit from this conversation as a clickbait headline, but
hopefully not.
I hope not. But even if you say something positive, somehow it gets twisted, and it's you know, I wanted to come on here and have a connection with you and have a connection with the fans. So this isn't really an interview, but otherwise I've stayed away from doing any more interviews at this point, just because it creates so much toxic negativity on the internet, which is just horrible. I hate it.
Yeah, man, and we musicians, we are just trying to spread love.
Totally.
You know, we're trying to build the community, to stay strong, to stay together, to really go through this moment, this difficult process in a good way. You know, and thank you for doing it with us. It's been amazing, man. And it's really to show to everybody in the world that, in despite we play different music styles, different metal styles, whatever, we are together. We are one. You know, we are just trying to be better, to get better as a society. So thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, it's tough times, man. Tough times.
Yeah, I think I have one last question for you, or Bruno. Let's do one question from the audience. Hey, Mike, and you have a favorite death metal band? Oh, it's
You go
difficult.
first. I went first on all the others.
What is death metal?
Right.
That's my first question. You know, like let me
Exactly.
think. What's death metal? I don't know, man. It's really hard to say. I really like Death Angel. Are they death metal? I don't think so.
No, they're more
No, they are like
thrash.
Bay Area. Yeah,
Bay Area thrash.
death metal. I don't know, man.
I'll give you mine. Maybe you have a second to think. But for me,
Okay.
and once again, it's hard. Like, how do you categorize shit? But it would be Opeth. But Opeth started as a death metal band, but now they're not really anymore. Now they're more of a progressive metal band. But Opeth are absolutely hands down one of my favorite bands of all time. I love Michael Ackerfeld, and I have so much respect and admiration for him and the way that the band has developed through the years and progressed. So they would be my pick. But once again, like, what is death metal? It's hard to pinpoint
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Exactly. I would say the band Death. It's like a death technical metal. I don't know, like how do they put that? They how they call it. But I love Death, man. Chuck, like he's amazing. All the drummers that play in the band. So that maybe is
Richard
my
Christie.
main influence.
Richard
Sorry?
Christie and Sean Reinert. I mean, the drumming on
Sean
those
Reinert.
albums are great. Yeah.
And Gene Hoglan.
Yeah,
Like,
Gene.
masters, man, masters. So I'm gonna make you like the last question. Okay. Like that's a classic question, but I have to make it. Like it's possible to don't do it. Like if you could go back in time, what would you say to Mike Portnoy 20 years ago, to yourself 20 years ago?
I would give the advice that I have followed my whole life, which is to just follow your heart. Don't do something because somebody else expects you to do it. Don't do something that that you don't want to do if your heart's not into it. Just follow your heart. And I've made a lot of career decisions through the year that were based on just my heart. It wasn't based on money. It wasn't based on what's the easy direction or decision. It was based on what's in my heart, and that's the advice I would give to my younger self. And luckily, I think my younger self followed that advice on its own. I think I really always have done that. And, be kind to people. These are tough times, like we were just talking about. I mean, I've never experienced anything like this in my lifetime. I think it's probably the same for everybody between the pandemic, which is unprecedented, and the riots and the racism and everything that's going on in America right now. I mean, this is a crazy, crazy times, and we need to spread love and positivity, understanding of each other, get rid of racism, and spread love and joy, and make music and art and things like that are going to inspire and lift people. And fuck these websites that just are negative and toxic and trying to stir people up and trying to divide people. So I stay away from that shit as much as I can these days in order to be happy and do things that are in my heart.
Awesome, man. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we are here just to share love. So everything that I post, and I believe what you post is just to share love, to share music, to share art. So thank you for doing it with us, man. It was very special. You have no idea how much special this was.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So see you next time. Maybe we're gonna see each other in the near future.
Yeah.
And,
I hope
when you
soon. I hope.
Yeah. When you come to Brazil, let me know. Okay.
I'm scheduled to be there in October. Of course, who knows if that will really happen or not. But once this whole thing passes, we'll all be back on the road, and I'll see you out there, and I'll be back in Brazil, and I can't wait till we get to that point again.
Okay, man. Thank you. Stay safe, and all the best.
You too, man.
So
You too.
everybody who's watching now, you can follow to the next link. So we're gonna have the live performance of the song Fear, Pain, Chaos, and Suffering. Thank you, and everybody stay safe.
Obrigado.
Obrigado.